Welcome to the Jackson Rudolph Podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Rudolph, and this is episode 129. And anybody that's a fan of the show knows that I was going to start this particular episode this way. Can you believe what JPM has done? 4 star fighters added to the roster. JPM Point Fighting is all the way back. Devon Hopper is our guest on the show this evening. We've got the return of Cameron Ali Dawson, Katana Everett, Darren Payne, D Stacks is on the squad now. It is unbelievable how excited I am for this move that has been made and what it means for the team moving forward. And Devon, you're one of the guys at the center of it all. I know that we're going to talk a lot about the last 72 hours and what all has happened, right?
Yeah.
First and foremost, for our Black Belt Magazine audience, those tuning in that maybe haven't heard of Devon Hopper before, right? Go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll get into some of this crazy story that's transpired over the last few days.
Absolutely, man. So first things first, just want to say thank you for inviting me out to the show, man. I was really excited when I heard we were going to get this done. I know we talked about it before, so I've been watching, man, and I've been tuning in, so it's a pleasure to be on here. But for those of you who don't know, my name is Devon Hopper. I'm from Orlando, Florida. I've been training for probably 20 plus years in ITF Taekwondo. That's like the system I started in. And yeah, like you said, it's been a crazy 72 hours, man, just this past few days, everything that's been going on. So I'm excited to tell everybody about it and yeah, start a new legacy, man. It's time to start it fresh. So yeah.
Awesome, man. I love it. And something that I want to make sure the audience knows before we get too deep into this is that D-Hop was going to be on this episode regardless of this Paul Mitchell stuff happening. Right. We spoke before the U.S. Open about him wanting to be on the show. It's something I got to give a lot of credit for. This man called his shot. He said, after I win the U.S. Open, I want to be on the podcast. And then he won the open weight title on stage at the U.S. Open. So I got to give big props to that, anybody that can call their shot. But Devon, I know the thing that everybody tuning in right now, I know that what people want to hear about is what just happened, right? So let's start there, and then we'll walk back. Take me through these last 72 hours for you.
Yeah, so, I mean, like everybody heard, the change from TDE, where most of my teammates were, to Paul Mitchell happened just recently. We announced it Sunday. And, yeah, like you said, man, it's been a crazy 72 hours, but I'm super excited, man. This is going to be a game changer for the sport in general, but just for JPM and the legacy and being a part of something that's bigger than just me. And so, you know, me, Katana, Cameron Dawson, and Darren Payne, we're all a part of JPM now. We just made the move. And yeah, like you said, man, it's been a crazy few days. We were super excited Sunday when we got the call, and now we're here, man, about to be repping black and white at the next event. So, yeah.
I love it. And I want to talk about that phone call a bit, because that's a story that everybody that has ever worn the black and white, everybody has their JPM phone call story. So tell us, what was that phone call like for you? Where were you? Who was the first person you talked to? Take us through that moment.
Yeah, so it was interesting, man, because like a lot of times when people call you, they give you a phone call, right? And on Sunday, you know, I'm in the gym, I'm lifting weights, I'm just doing my normal thing. And I'm kind of thinking in my head, like, man, is this going to happen? Like, we don't know what's going to happen. And I get a FaceTime call, and the first person that picks up is Damon. So Damon calls me first, and he gives me, you know, welcome to the team. And at first, I was kind of just like in shock. I didn't say anything. And I'm on FaceTime. So, like, you know, you're used to a phone call. I'm like, all right, I got to pick this up. Like, this is real. So, you know, I'm talking to him on FaceTime, and we went through all the details of how everything's going to work out. And he was the first person to invite me. And then once we got off the phone, man, it was like a whirlwind of every Paul Mitchell member I've ever seen giving me calls and welcoming me to the team. And like, it was nothing I've ever experienced before. Like, I'm in the gym with one of my friends, and I'm trying to keep it like the whole news kind of quiet so no one could hear. And dude, I'm on the phone like every set. In between sets, I'm hitting the weights, and then I gotta pick up the phone. Another FaceTime call, and it was awesome, man, just to get like a genuine welcome. It wasn't like just a text like, hey, welcome. Like, everyone personally called me. I mean, from the higher ups all the way down to, you know, the fighters that just got on the team to pretty much everyone. So like I said, this is an experience I've never experienced before, and I'm very, very grateful for it. So it's been crazy, man. Yep.
That's awesome. And that's one thing that anybody who wears these colors is so proud of about Team Paul Mitchell is the fact that it's, and a lot of teams say this, but Paul Mitchell really means it when we're a family first and a team second, right? And it's proven through moments like that. Like we've got a number of members of like the Forms and Weapons part of the team that have probably like never even like said hello to you before in their life because you're in different lanes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the moment that you're putting on the same uniform, that's a brother and sisterhood. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that is so special about this group. And anybody that's been tuning into the podcast over the last year or so knows how proud I am of the camaraderie that this particular JPM unit has.
Yeah.
And Devon, I know that you were prepared to talk a lot about JPM on this show, but not a JPM show. This right here is a Devon Hopper episode. So I want to go all the way back to the beginning for a moment. Let's rewind. This whole martial arts journey, man. How did it get started for you in the first place?
So, my martial arts journey is a little different from most, but I mean, I started at the age of 5. I grew up in North Carolina, Charlotte. That's where I was born, actually. Lived there until the age of like 5 or 6. So my first experience was in Charlotte, and I just did like a few classes, and then we ended up moving to Orlando. So once I moved to Orlando, most of you guys already know who Obeda bin Wali is, but he's like one of my first instructors. He's the one who tied my white belt around my waist, and he tied my black belt around my waist. So he's been with me since the beginning. But yeah, I started in martial arts because of behavior issues. I was one of those kids in elementary school who had some issues, and I used to always get into altercations. So my mom was like, we're gonna put you in something that's gonna keep you disciplined and keep you on track. So as soon as we moved down here, I started the after school program, and Obeda was my instructor, but he was more than just an instructor. He was really a mentor. He was like a big brother, almost a father figure. He really took care of me inside and outside of the dojo. So, things like that, you never take for granted. And that's why I am where I am today, because I had a true instructor who really cared about me. And so, I don't know where I'd be, man. I'd probably be somewhere acting a fool if I didn't have martial arts in my life. So I'm definitely grateful for that. So that's where it all started. And I've been doing, like I said, I've been doing it for about 20 plus years, but I really got serious in it probably around 15 or 16 is when I started taking the competition a little bit more serious. But yeah, man, it's been a ride.
And I love the fact that you bring up Obeda, because he's one of those guys in this community that I feel like doesn't get the respect he deserves often enough. Right?
I agree.
I've had a few school owners that have hosted seminars with both of us that also speak really highly of him. And every time a school owner brings him up, shout out like Isaac Costley is one guy that's had us both out a couple.
Isaac is the man. I like.
Every time somebody brings him up, that's my response. It's like, man, that is one of those dudes that doesn't get the credit he deserves as a martial arts businessman, as a martial artist, an instructor in the first place. I mean, there's so many elements of what he's done for the martial arts community, not just sport martial arts, that I feel like he doesn't get the respect he deserves for. So I want to kind of give you that alley-oop and give you that opportunity to. You mentioned he was a mentor and all of that, but more specifically, just kind of put him in the spotlight for a moment.
So I mean, like you hit it a nail on the head, man. Like people don't know because he's a very humble guy, and like he's not going to talk about all the things that he does for people, but he does a lot, man, and it's really the passion that he brings. Like he really cares about every student, and he really wants to see everybody be the best that they can be. And I've never seen it before, because we hear everyone say it. You hear instructors say, like, I want every student to be the best, but like he genuinely pours into everybody inside and outside of the dojo. That's like the biggest thing. And then on top of that, he's always invested in the sport in different ways, whether, like you said, it's with, helping other schools grow, or it's being involved. Like he's still judging, he's active in ISKA. So like you said, he doesn't always get the love from everybody, but man, he's passionate about the sport, and we need people like that if we want our sport to continue to grow. So props to him. And like I said before, I wouldn't be the fighter I am, I wouldn't be the man I am today if I didn't have him in my corner. So always appreciative of him, for sure.
Absolutely. And one thing that I think is that everybody can relate to in your story is that the reason you started martial arts in the first place is the reason that many kids even today start martial arts. It's like you're acting up a little bit, you got to get your behavior in check before you get in martial arts class. Like it's one of those top 3 reasons that people wind up in the martial arts. And at some point, for everybody that becomes a world champion sport martial arts competitor, forms, weapons, fighting, or otherwise, at some point there has to be that moment where you realize that it's going to be more than just going to class on Monday and Wednesday, but that it's something that you want to commit yourself to and that you want to get to the highest level of.
Yeah.
So for you, what was that moment? When did you realize that this is something that you really wanted to invest in?
Right. So for me, like I said before, when I first started it, like you said, it was for discipline issues. So like I didn't necessarily want to be there when I first started. I kind of was just there because my mom made me be there. And, you know, Obi was really tough with me. So there were times where, you know, I went home and I'm like, man, like martial arts, maybe not my thing. And I went through that for a long time when I first started. I always enjoyed it, but I had my mom is the one who really pushed me to do it. But once I got my black belt, I did my first competition. I did US Open. Most people do competitions before black belt, but I started US Open with my first competition ever. And I went out there, and once I saw the competition and I saw the experience of just different countries coming together and fighting, I realized, okay, maybe this is what I want to do. And so I started to take it a little bit more serious, but I really locked in and I said, okay, I want to be one of the best fighters in the world. When I was probably about 16 or 17, I started to tell myself, okay, I was in study hall, junior year of high school. And if any fighter knows this video, if you go on YouTube and you type in Super Seminar on YouTube, there's a video. It's highlight reel of 3 of the best fighters you've ever seen: Jody Tenchin, Jason, and Ray. And I mean, it was to hype up a seminar that they did, but the highlight reels were crazy. And I'm sitting in study hall, 16 years old, and I'm thinking like, man, what do I want to do? Like, what's going to be the next step for me? And I'm watching the video, and next thing you know, I'm seeing Ray hit this guy with cartwheels, and I'm seeing them holding trophies, and I find out you win prize money. And I'm like, wait a minute, maybe this is the route like I could take. Like, I love martial arts. I don't know if I want to box, what I want to do. And then after watching that and talking to my instructor a little bit more, I decided, all right, this is what I want to do, and I want to take it to the next level. So, yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And, you know, along that journey, right, it sounds like it was kind of fighting all the way for you, right? I assume you trained in forms of weapon stuff along the way, too.
Yeah.
But as you realize that point fighting is what you wanted to do, you mentioned, like, being a 16, 17-year-old, like, on that journey, right, as you're obviously going to national competitions already at that point, you mentioned your first time out there was the US Open. So what were some of those milestones along the way? You can brag about this a little bit. What were some of those moments that you kind of proved to yourself, I can actually make this happen? I just won this grand, or I just beat this guy, or what were those moments that were those milestones along the way?
So I'll tell you what, man, like for me at 16, I kind of felt like I was already late in the game, right? Like I felt like, man, I'm 16, and a lot of the guys that I'm competing against have already been competing as underbelts. They've been competing since 5, 6, you know what I mean, years old. So like it took a lot longer to get to where I wanted to get to. You know, it took a lot longer because of where I started. And, you know, I was a black belt, so I'm thrown in with the guys who've been fighting for a long time. But my first biggest accomplishment was WKC. And I was 17 years old, and we went out to Italy, and I did light contact and I did point fighting, but I wasn't training point. Like at my school, we trained a little bit of everything. We did boxing, kickboxing, and we did form. Like I had to do forms, I did weapons, I did everything. So sparring was just like one of the things I wanted to do, point sparring. But for me to be able to get top 3 in the division at 17 years old with no real point training that was like the first time I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe I could take this to the next level. And believe it or not, shout out to Richard Plowden. He's actually the one who like really got me into point, because I didn't qualify in national. If you guys know about WKC, you have to qualify in nationals in order to fight worlds. I qualified for continuous and I qualified for weapons, but I didn't qualify for point. I got waxed. Like everybody in nationals just beat me, right? But a lot of them weren't able to go, and Richard Plowden gave me the opportunity to still fight representing USA in point. So I ended up getting top 3. So if I wouldn't have had that experience or that opportunity, I can't say I would still be doing point right now. So shout out to Richard Plowden for giving me that opportunity, and I always tell him that. But yeah, that was my first biggest accomplishment was WKC. I believe 2016, I want to say 2016, yeah, or actually 2013, excuse me. Yeah,
for sure. It's so cool how I feel like those annual world championships serve as a big motivating factor for a lot of competitors because you get to see all the countries represented. You get, if you're an American, of course, you get to wear USA on your back and represent the country, right? So WKC, I think now is kind of the preeminent one. When I was a kid, it was WKA, which was a separate league, but similar type of idea. Now WKA is known as WKU, and they do a really good job with their annual events. But it's interesting how for a lot of NASKA, ISKA, WACO, a lot of those world champions that are in those different, type of leagues where it's more so focused on the major individual events like the U.S. Open, the Irish Open, the Warrior Cup, Diamonds, whatever, right? Battle of Atlanta, so on and so forth, right? But I feel like those annual country-based world championships, like I said, now WKC leading that charge, is often a great springboard for athletes to have that first breakthrough and have that first major accomplishment, and then they start to kind of build on their careers from there. And for you, another major turning point has been this year where you're just stacking up accolades left and right. We've had them scrolling across the bottom line during the show here, but winning the WACO Open Weight in Quebec, heavyweight grands in Atlanta, another open weight title at U.S. Open. You've been on fire this year, and even the ones that you haven't won, making the top four, being in those semifinal fights, only losing by a couple of points here and there when you have suffered the losses, right? So you've had an incredible season, one of the best seasons in the country. Actually, it was one of the cool things about what Coach Damon Gilbert was saying in the press release was that, like, your season is arguably the best season anybody's had in the country this year, right?
Amazing, right?
What do you attribute that to? Like, what was the difference coming into 2023? What skill did you unlock? What was it mentally? What feels different this year?
So, like, I feel like every fighter experiences this, where it's like the moment where like everything clicks for you. And I had that moment last year where I really felt like, all right, like all the things I've been trying to tweak and work on, it's easy to work on them in the dojo. It's easy to work on them when you're sparring, but it's a lot harder when you got 2 minutes and you're fighting the best in the world to try to work on those things and develop those things. So it takes a lot longer, especially if you're not active. Like last year, 2022, I probably only competed 2 times at major events. The year before that, I was dealing with an injury, so I wasn't very active. So I haven't been active the past 2 years, but I always knew, like I knew the past 2 years, like, all right, this is going to be my time. I knew like my skills were finally where I needed them to be. So really 2023, man, was just executing. That's all it was about, was like, all right, we're set up, we're in shape. We have all the skills and tools we need now. So now it's just time to execute and stay locked in. So I think for me, also just being around a lot of different athletes and traveling more and training in different areas has helped as well. But for me, it was just the mentality and believing in it. Like before the year started, like I knew 2022, like I told myself, I told the people around me, just like I told you I was going to win US Open, I talked about it and I said it. I think that's huge. Like being able, having the confidence to say it out loud will definitely change how you fight and how you walk and how you talk. So I think that was the game changer for me. It was just a confidence and knowing that I could do it and believing in it when I got out there. So, yeah.
Sure. And I think that's something that's really important for young competitors to hear too. Because like you can ask my mom and dad, when we were leading up to a big tournament, right? Some of these tournaments that we've mentioned, Warrior Cup, US Open, Diamonds, Atlanta, whatever. A lot of the times I was obnoxious to my parents those weeks leading up to the tournament, talking about how good I was and how nobody could touch me and how I was going to win this US Open or this title or that title, right? And my parents will tell you I was annoying. Like 2 weeks before a tournament, I was annoying with the level of confidence that I would go into it with.
Right.
I feel like a lot of times young competitors are hesitant to let themselves think that way because they don't want to be arrogant. They don't want to be cocky. But the difference is where you express it, right? Like if it's in your self-talk and you're expressing it to those who are close to you because you firmly believe that, and you're not, going out and making like grandiose claims on social media and calling people out, that's where the line is. Like if you can bottle it up and control it, it's a dangerous weapon. Mm-hmm. But if you start letting it out, well, then, that is a little arrogant and not the way that you want to present yourself, right? So talk a bit about balancing that, because by all accounts, one of the things that I think has been so cool about this Paul Mitchell announcement is how many people I've seen on social media for you specifically, just from your community, people whose lives you have touched, who are just congratulating you. Really just because you're a good guy, right? So talk about like balancing like the confidence to believe that you can beat anybody in the game.
Yeah.
Also the control and the discipline to be humble about it.
Yeah. So I think you hit the nail on the head when you said like a lot of younger ones, it's hard to like grasp that concept because we're taught as martial artists specifically to be humble, right? We're taught to be humble and not be, too arrogant, to be respectful. And, I was raised that way. Like in my household, I was raised to be a respectful and be humble. And I was raised that way in the dojo. So like for me, it was difficult for a very long time to balance like all right, how do I show this confidence? How do I walk with this confidence, but still be, a humble person, be respectful to people, how to balance it. And I think you hit it on the head when you said self-talk. It's really about self-confidence, right? That's where people get it confused. It's like, yeah, you want to be confident, but it's about being confident in who you are and what you can do and what you can accomplish. And the biggest way for me that I built my confidence was preparation. And I feel like if you train hard, and I tell my students this all the time, if you push yourself in training and you work as hard as you can in training, you're building mental fortitude, right? So where you don't break. And when you get in the ring, you're going to look across from the guys that you're sparring. You're going to be like, these guys aren't putting the work I'm putting in. They're not running the miles I'm running. They're not doing the things I'm doing. And it's going to naturally give you that confidence. You know what I mean? But you have to build the confidence through practice. It doesn't happen like you just wake up and you're confident. It comes through your training. It comes through practicing your confidence. It comes through doing the weird things that kids don't like to do, like standing in the mirror and talking to yourself and being honest with yourself about the things you need to work on. Like all that stuff, you may hear it and you're like, man, that's corny. But that's the difference between somebody who's successful and accomplishes the goals they want and the person who's just mediocre or has the potential to be. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things, man, but it starts within yourself. And once you talk it to yourself and you start to believe it, because you could tell anyone, but if you don't really believe it and you're not bringing it in and you're not waking up like feeling like the man, then it's not going to translate when you talk. It's not going to translate when you go out and fight. So it starts within, it starts at home. It starts when you wake up every day, just, being positive about yourself. And I think that's where, especially, I hope my students are listening to this because I tell them this all the time, but all students around the world, like you guys got to believe in yourself, but it starts at home. It doesn't matter what you do in the dojo. It starts at home. You know what I mean? It starts with who you are when you wake up in the morning. You got to believe in yourself. So, yeah, for everybody out there, make sure you guys are thinking about that. But yeah.
Couldn't have said it better myself and couldn't agree more. I mean, that was just beautifully said. All of that. If you guys are just tuning into the show, make sure when it's over, you go back and replay that a couple times because that was gold right there. I love it. And so getting back to, that's a huge part of the game, whether you're a forms and weapons competitor or you're a point fighter, sparring athlete, whatever title you want to give it, right? Is the mental part of it. I tell students all the time, that's like 70% of this game is believing that you can land that trick or beat that guy or whatever the case may be, right? But the other part of it is the X and the O's, right? And I want to get into the X's and O's with you a little bit because as I sit back and watch you as a fan of point fighting, I proclaim on this show over and over again that I am a point fighting fan above all else. And as I watch you fight, the thing that impresses me so much about your style in particular is the fact that you've got so many different weapons. You can kick, you've got the back fist, both the fadeaway and the way that you set it up with your step-ins. You've got the reverse punch. You have all of the tools that a high-level point fighter needs to have to be successful. Right. And when you are such a well-rounded fighter, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about the importance of that a little bit, which is somewhat self-explanatory. But I'm also curious, for you personally, what do you feel is your best weapon? What do you like to hit people with the most?
Okay. So the first part, this is a good one because like I always think about this all the time, and like everybody has styles, right? Like everybody has like, especially the best. You look at the best fighters in the world, there's like that one technique they're gonna hit you with. And like you can't stop it. You know what I mean? Like guys like Ross, guys like Jody, guys like Ray, like they have that one thing, whether it's the dive bomb, whether it's the reverse punch or the D side, it's like no matter who they fight, they can land it. And so like when I would watch these guys growing up, I would try to find like, all right, what is the one thing that's like me, right? But I could never find it. I couldn't find it. I couldn't figure out, like, I wasn't really good at a reverse punch. I wasn't really good at a back fist. I wasn't really good at pumping kicks. I just was kind of okay at everything. So what it forced me to do was say, all right, I'm going to develop everything. I'm going to make everything great. And I'm going to get better at kicks. I'm going to get better at my blitzing. I'm going to get better at my back fist and my reverse punch. I'm going to mix things up. So when I train, I never train one specific thing, and I don't have one thing in mind. I always try to mix it up in between. So like we train our kicks just as hard as our blitzes. We train our blitzes just as hard as our footwork, our movement, our spacing, our timing. Everything's important. So when I started to take that mindset, it took me a little bit longer to get to where I am because I had to develop everything. But now that I'm here, I feel like, all right, there's not many holes in my game, right? And I think as you develop your game, you want to just look at all the things you can get better at and try to work on them. Try to work on, all right, my kicks aren't where they need to be. I'm going to focus on this. My hands aren't where they need to be. My reaction isn't where it is. And that's kind of how I took approach. So, yeah, my goal was always to have everything, right? Be good at everything. So, and if you look at the fighters now, especially in this age, I feel like a lot of the fighters now have both, right? Like they can kick and they can punch. There's a few that are still just kickers and still punchers, but now you're seeing a lot more guys who are kicking and punching and making it harder to really, fight styles. It's really just who's the better fighter. So that's the first part. Second part, my favorite technique. That one's hard, man, because like I have certain techniques that are satisfying, like a fadeaway back fist, just hitting someone. Anybody who's ever just slapped someone with a back fist, it just feels good. Like if it's a great feeling. So I would say my fadeaway back fist or my back fist, it satisfies me. You know what I mean? That's probably one of my favorite techniques. And then kicks, I would probably say the round kick. I like round kicks. I like hook rounds. Anything finishing with a round kick to the head. That's a very, very satisfying thing for me as well. So I look for those techniques. I don't sit on them too much, right? But if they're there, they're there. But yeah, the back fist and the round kick, man, those things, they get me going. When I land those, you see me getting hyped. So
I love it. And I was hoping you would say back fist because as I've obviously been watching tape and everything, my favorite highlight of yours that I found so far is I don't even know where it was. But you got this one highlight where you sidestep somebody and you throw like basically a sideways back fist and you just drop them with it. You know the highlight I'm talking about, right? What was that situation?
So it's funny you say that. So that's a V. I call it a V step. There's a lot of different names for it where you're cutting the angle and you're throwing a back fist. So like I said before, man, I try to work on everything, but that move right there, shout out to the Next Level crew. Shout out to James Poor. I got to train with him for a good amount of time when he was in Georgia, and I got to work on my angles a lot and just setting up things in different ways. And if you guys have ever seen James fight, dude can cut angles from anywhere. He could throw a punch. He'll be out of there and then back in and hitting you with a back fist from different angles. So that was a move I used to watch him do. And I was like, bro, I told him, I'm going to land that move, bro, just for you in the ring. So I put it a part of my game and I made sure I would throw it in. And I think that's important for everybody to hear. Like, don't be too prideful to not take advice or people from your peers or from people that are, you compete against. Like, this is how you get better. If there's a way for you to get better, take advantage of it. And so when me and James trained together, I definitely try to take some things with me. And that's where that came from. So shout out to him. But yeah, that's in my tool bag now. So be on the lookout. That won't be the last one. For sure.
I love it. That's awesome, man. And we've been doing a lot of name dropping on the show so far. I'm glad James Ford's getting a little bit of respect there. But you've also been naming over the course of the show several legends, right? Named Robin Ray and Jotty, all these guys, right? So I want to give you the opportunity to summarize that a little bit. Like, who are growing up or even now, like, who are some of the fighters that have inspired you most along the way, whether you watched them in person or on tape? Like, who are some of those guys that you looked up to the most?
Yeah. So I'll start with like in person, like my first time watching adults. And it was so silly of me because like as a kid, I used to never watch adults. And so kids, make sure you stay and watch adults because you'll get a lot of inspiration from that. But I finally stayed and watched adults at a USA Sport Karate. It used to be called Blitz Martial Arts. And my instructor fought. So Mr. Obeda, he fought. And if anybody's seen him fight, he hits hard, he fights with energy. So like it was a way different from me watching like the 10-year-old division that I'm in and then watching him just slap dudes with back fists, hitting combos, hitting dudes hard. So like that was my first inspiration, watching Mr. O. And then my second inspiration would probably be Justin Ortiz. It's funny because this is almost like a full circle moment, because Justin used to live in Orlando. He lived in Orlando for a long time, and he was one of the first like elite level fighters I got to be around and train with when I first got into the game. And he kind of helped me out and pushed me when I first started. So I saw him compete, and his leg and just the stuff he was throwing I had never seen before, and that was a huge like inspiration for me. As far as like in general, I think everybody, most people, I won't say everybody, but most people will say like Ray is probably one of their biggest inspirations, and he was a huge inspiration for me. Just the dominance, the energy, the showmanship, just everything that he brings to the sport. I think it was like, for me, it was like watching, like, he's the guy that made me want to do point. Like, it wasn't anybody, it was him. Like, I watched him on YouTube and I'm like, this looks cool. You know what I mean? So Ray for sure. And then Jotty Tension is someone I look up to a lot, and I watched a lot growing up. Jack Felton is also someone I admire, and I base some of my style and techniques off of. I think he's one of the most complete fighters in the world. So shouts out to Jack. And then if we bring it back to like old school, I would say Pedro Xavier, because he can do both. He can do both sides, and he could kick both sides, and he could punch both sides. And it's hard to beat a fighter who could do that. So Pedro is another guy that like gave me a lot of inspiration growing up. So yeah.
And a lot of names, and this is something I always say on the show. Kids, if you guys are watching this and you're hearing some of these names and you don't recognize any of them, then as soon as this show ends, you need to click over to YouTube. You need to type in these names. You need to go watch the tape because it will motivate you, just like it did Devon, and just like it did so many other fighters that we've had on the show that talk about these names. There's a reason that these names echo when you ask the best fighters in the world who it was that they looked up to, because they were the greats of the previous generations, right? Yeah. So I think that that's huge. Now, the next thing that I wanted to talk about, we've kind of themed the show, kind of taking this timeline through your career and these different turning points when you realized you had a chance to be good and who inspired you along the way. But now I want to focus in on this season, because obviously there's been a lot of big moments that we've already talked about this season. But what are some of your favorites? I mean, with all the wins and some great head-to-head matchups, some really exciting fights, when you look back on 2023 so far, obviously the pen is still in your hand and there's more chapters to be written in this season. But as of today, what's already happened? What are some of your favorite moments from 2023?
Yeah. Man, it's so tough because this year has been like, just like you said, nonstop. It's just been one thing after the other. And like Quebec was huge because it was the first open weight I won, and it was the first like real grand, that I won where I beat everybody, no losses. So that was huge. Quebec was huge. Battle was my first like official overall, right? Heavyweight overall. So that was huge. But I think US Open takes it because it was my first event ever when growing up, right? So going to US Open, being there every year. And I mean, I win every year. I never skipped a year of US Open, and to finally win it, and to win it on stage for the open weight, and the leader or the head of the schools that we run. So there's a chain called Championship Martial Arts, and Mike Metzger, he's the owner of that, but he's also my instructor's instructor, right? And my instructor's instructor. So he's the grand master of all the locations. And for him to hand me the trophy, being in Orlando, my hometown, all my family and friends around, all my students around, I don't think you could beat that moment. And then I think number 2 would be Sunday, man, getting the call from Damon Gilbert and finding out that I'm going to be a part of Team Paul Mitchell, I think is probably the 2 biggest moments of 2023 so far. But we got a lot more to do, so be on the lookout.
Yep. Sure, job's not finished. I love it. And, we want to give a quick shout out to Mike Metzger and the Martial Arts Industry Association. He was there as part of MayaCon at the U.S. Open, which was a big event that they hosted this year. And, of course, the Martial Arts Industry Association and Century, both partners with Black Belt Magazine. So definitely want to give them a shout out and thank them for all that they do, particularly now for the sport karate community as well. I think Century and Maya has done, absolutely.
Yeah, I think they're a game changer, man. Just the stuff that they're able to do, and like you said, I think it's good for the sport karate community to be able to understand how to grow your business and grow your schools, and now that they're at, like, it's cool that they were at US Open, so like they're right in arm's reach. You don't have to go anywhere far. You just go to the tournaments and they're there. So yeah. What they're doing now, man, is really, really good. It's good for the sport and it's good for everybody. So if you're not tuned in, make sure you guys get tuned in. But yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Yes, sir.
So now, coming back to the thing that everybody who's watching the show tuned in for in the first place is talking about the moves that were just made and what it's going to look like now with you on Team Paul Mitchell, right?
Yeah.
And the other guys that you've been picked up with, you guys were already teammates before. You're now just going to be wearing new colors, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to let you take this question whichever direction you want to take it, talking about those who were already your teammates or talking about some of your new teammates, however you want to take it. But focusing on the fighting squad itself, number one, how excited are you to stand shoulder to shoulder with these fighters? And number two, go through some of the highlights of what you respect most about some of their games from these juniors that we've got. They got the guys that came with you, Alex Mancias and Sean Magallanes, already in the division, right? Like, just take this opportunity to just kind of riff about this new team that you're a part of.
Wow, yeah. So, I mean, first things first, like you said before, the four that moved, like all four of us, we were already teammates. So me, Katana, Cam, and Darren, we were already teammates, but we were bigger than teammates. We were like family, and we were genuinely family. Like, we did everything together. And Katana's literally like a sister to me, like a blood sister. Cam is like a brother to me. Like, I'll do anything for Cam, and it's vice versa. So, you know, we're a family, man. So I was happy that we were able to make this move together, and that's what just made it all more surreal for me. Was just like, man, we're doing this together, and I'm doing it with the people that I've always fought with. And I mean, me, Cam, and Darren, like, Darren has been a part of the team at Dojo for about a year, right, before he moved over to Paul Mitchell. But like, he's an extension of, you know, Jesse Ray, but also he's got a lot of you know, support, and he's learned a lot from Cam as well. So I look at him like a brother as well now too. And it's just crazy because me and Cam, anytime we fought on the team together, we've never lost a team fight. With me, Cam, and Ryan as Team Dojo, we've never lost teams. When we get to stage, we always win. And so, like, I already know what's gonna happen, right? Because we've been there before, and we know we're gonna dominate. But it's just crazy to be able to say, like, all right, we're wearing black and white now, and, you know, we're on the most professional team in sport karate history that you can be on. So I think it's just like, it's like we're winning now. We're winning it all. So it's been real cool to have that. And then shouts out to all the fighters that are already on the team. I'll start with Katarina. Katarina's a beast. If you guys have ever seen her fight, her leg is crazy, and she's already winning. Like, she's very, very young, and she's already winning. She's got a couple overalls under her belt already. So, like, the growth from her, and then seeing her and Katana together, that's going to be crazy for the women's division. Good luck to all the women out there. And then shouts out to Alex. If anybody's seen Alex fight this year, you guys say I'm on a run, but I think Alex has been on a run as well, man. And just the way that he's been fighting, the energy that he's bringing. And I think just the improvement. And sometimes we just look at accolades, right? But we don't look at, like, the actual fighter's improvement and what they've done. And those are wins to me, right? It's just as much of a win as winning overall if you're improving. So he's improving every tournament, man. And I think Alex has got a lot of potential. And I have a lot of students who do forms in fighting, and they look up to him because he's able to go out there all day, gets up Saturday morning. We get to sleep in a little bit. You know, as fighters, we get to sleep in. We get there a little later. No, he's there early in the morning. He's doing forms, and then he's coming out. He's suiting up, and he's fighting us. So respects to Alex. And then, you know, everybody else on the team. Sean, he's a beast, real fast, lightweight guy. And I saw him fight. My first time seeing him fight in person was Ocean States, and I was really, really impressed with him. And he's holding down the West Coast. So, man, I'm really excited. The juniors are beast. Seb, I got to train with him before I was even on Paul Mitchell. I went out to Vito's, and we got to train a little bit. And the way that kid works, and his maturity and how serious he takes the game, it's really something to attest to. That kid's a beast. And shout out to Vito and all his students out there as well. And then Jake, we were trying to set up a training to go train with Jake this week, but I'm going to definitely lock in with Jake. Jake's a beast as well. Both of those guys, like, they can kick and punch, which I said, like, the new generation, they're getting it. They're putting both together, and those two, they're hard to beat because they could do everything. And they're only 15, 15, 16, 14. So it's really cool to see those guys doing their thing too. So when you put us all together, man, in one bunch, in one room, we're going to see some highlights. There's going to be a lot of highlight reels for the next couple of years, man. So we're excited.
For sure. And that's what I love so much. And when I called each of you guys to welcome everybody to the team, that was one thing that I said to everybody was, this reminds me of the Paul Mitchell that I was raised under, right? Like when I first, like I always tell the story, and for me, it was one of my first years, so 2006, and seeing Paul Mitchell on stage, the forms, weapons, fighting, taking over everything. And that is when I decided that was the team that I wanted to represent, right? Like for me, my first U.S. Open wasn't just I want to be on that stage. It was I want to be on that stage and I want to be on that team, right? And so for now, obviously with the COVID pandemic and everything, the forms and weapons team was even smaller for a minute. That got built back up. But now to have the size and the talent of a fighting squad that we have, it truly feels like the Paul Mitchell that I was raised under once again. You know what I mean? And that's just such a special thing to experience. And one of the last things that I want to get to here, because I know you got to go shortly because you got some karate to go teach. But one of the things that I think is so fascinating about this is the parallelism between what happened with the forms and weapons team last year, particularly with 4 pickups that are already teammates moving into the black and white, moving into new divisions in some cases, right? Because on the kata side, from Competitive Edge, there was Avery Presley, Ben Jones, Esteban Tremblay, and Dawson Holt. By the way, also ironic that it's 3 dudes and the Lady Warrior, right? And then now on this side, for the fighters, we've got Kitana, yourself, Cam, and D Stacks, right? So I love that there's that parallelism between like this new era of Team Paul Mitchell and the forms and the fighters kind of being built up at the same time. And you mentioned that as you were coming up, you did forms and weapons, and you were in that world, right? By the way, your instructor, Abeda, for those of you who don't know, does some mean nunchucks. So I got
the chucks
there as well,
nice
right?
Chucks, baby.
So the last thing I want to ask is, now that you're on JPM, which is known for being a both, right? Forms and weapons and a fighting team, in large part thanks to the legacy that was set forth by Kevin Thompson and the way that he could dominate everything. And other players on this team that have done the same, Christine Bannon Rodriguez and the like, right? So now you're on this team that's got this massive forms and weapons squad as well. Are there any in particular that you were a fan of before that you're like, okay, it's really cool that I'm teammates with this person because I love their bow form or I love their extreme form or whatever? Just I want to give you the opportunity to talk about how exciting it is to like have some forms and weapons guys that you're going to cheer on, and that obviously they're going to cheer you on too.
Absolutely, man. I think like for me, like I said, here in Orlando, when you train in Orlando, we do everything, right? Like there's certain regions where, you know, maybe it's more forms oriented or fighting oriented, but I mean, we got good weapons, we got good forms guys, and we got good fighters all. And sometimes they all do all 3. So like I've always done forms. I know what a good form looks like. I know what it takes to get to the level that everyone on the forms team is at. And I know how much hard work it is. And so, you know, for everybody on the squad right now, I'm impressed with. I did get to watch Avery a little bit last time, and Avery looks really, really sharp. So I'm impressed with her. And then I will say this, one of my students, they heard about me being on Paul Mitchell, and they're like, do you know Jackson Rudolph? Do you know Jackson Rudolph? Can you tell him I watch his book? So like being able to be on the team with you, I know you're not active right now, but like just everything that you've done in the sport. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times I pulled up your video to show a student, like, because I can't pull that move off. I'm over here like, hey, look at Jackson, you know what I mean? Because I can't do it. But just everything that you've done, man, in the sport, I think it's just cool to be a part of, and in the legends as well. So, I mean, the forms team, the fighting team being an A+ squad now is gonna be a game changer. So I'm really excited.
Absolutely. Well, hey, appreciate that shout out, of course. And that's one of the things that I'm so thankful for in my new role with the team, even though I'm in med school and I don't have time to train like I used to. But, you know, being able to have a coaching position on the team and being able to help out with the social media, and especially with the young core that we've got in forms and weapons, and help train them up and kind of teach them the Paul Mitchell way and what it means to be a part of this team. It's a truly special opportunity for me. And I'm really excited to be capturing some of those highlights of our new fighters and posting those up on the Instagram as well, which, by the way, is a good plug. If you guys are tuning into the podcast and you don't follow at Paul Mitchell Martial Arts on Instagram, you better go click that follow button.
Click that follow button.
But anyway, so Devon, once again, man, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. I want to welcome you to Team Paul Mitchell. We are so excited to have you and your friends all coming on the team. It's a super exciting time for us. And again, thank you for taking the time to be on the show. any last words for our audience here?
Just want to shout out to you first, man. Thank you for letting me on. And I think this is going to, like I said before, this is going to be a great start to a new legacy. And I'm proud to be a part of it. And just shout out to everybody who supported me since the ground up. And we're just going to keep going. We're going to keep working. And there's so much more to accomplish. So shout out to all of you guys. And that's it, man. I appreciate you, brother.
Brilliant. Appreciate you too, my man. For everybody tuning in, thank you to Black Belt Magazine, Century Martial Arts for making the Jackson Rudolph Podcast possible. This has been episode 129 of the Jackson Rudolph Podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Rudolph, and I'll see you next time.